Hello.
Hello, hey, how you doing?
Very good, thank you. And you?
Oh, not too bad. How was your day?
Busy.
Busy?
But it's over. I mean, here it's, what, 10 o'clock p.m., so.
Oh gosh, okay. Yeah, it's only 4 p.m. here, so got the whole rest of the day to deal with the kids.
Exactly. How many do you have?
4.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
yeah. Still haven't figured out what causes that, but what about
What
you?
age? Three.
Oh, okay. Mine are 7, 9, 10, and 14.
Okay, so I'm below mine now.
Okay.
2.5, 5, and 6.
Oh, okay. That's a fun age.
No, yeah. I don't complain.
Yeah.
But for me, three was mission complete.
Oh, well, yeah. Two was mission complete for me, but yeah, we something happened and we kept getting more. Yeah, no doubt. Well, I appreciate you taking the time, especially so late in the evening. And I
My
was,
pleasure.
yeah. So I enjoy talking to guys that do the mission planning and campaign building because it's really to me a higher level of creativity, right? I mean, to not only have the technical know-how to build things with the mission editor, and frankly, the DCS mission editor is finicky. Um, and then but also to kind of craft a narrative and have an overarching story and theme to it. When did you start making campaigns?
Uh, Let me think, was probably 2015, I think.
Okay.
I'm not even sure. I'd have to check. But I just started doing that. I always liked it. I mean, I always played games when there was editors, and I would always do something on my own.
Right.
And I remember I built the first version of no, the first thing I did is actually I just had an idea for a campaign, and I found someone to help me build the missions because I didn't know anything about the editor.
Right.
And then I just sat and started learning it piece by piece slowly. I built the first version with text to speech voiceovers
Hmm.
that were funny, but well, people seem to like it. Then I started finding others who'd like to contribute with their voiceovers, and then Chris from matspec.com reached out to me, says that he spoke to Matt Wagner, and they're now starting to release those DLC campaigns, and this might be a good material for one.
Hmm.
So I talked to them, talked to ED, had to update the campaign, and the first version of Enemy Within came to life. And now we're in Enemy Within 3.0,
Yeah.
which I think will be the final like incarnation.
Yeah. So and I wanted to ask you sort of about that, but a little bit later. So did you start building things with DCS, or was there like a history before this where you like to build for other, games like Arma or something like that?
I used to play Arma, but I never got into editor.
Okay.
I think for me, I was always playing the role playing games, the pen and paper ones,
Sure. Yeah.
and I've always been the game master, so I always came up with some stories.
Yeah.
And then I just combined that with simulations and modern jets, and yeah, it
Yeah.
just came naturally.
Yeah, no, I share that because I was the same way growing up. I was always the game master. I was always the guy that had to think up the stories, and that does translate when you're having to build scenarios, certainly. Um,
Yeah, it's pretty natural, and it's good fun. I like it. I mean, I came to a point, unfortunately, where the most of the time I'm spending in DCS playing my own stuff, and so I'm looking forward to playing some other campaigns, and I've been trying some of them now recently. It's good fun not to know what's going to happen,
yeah,
but
yeah, I was going to ask you that, like how much of your time, your enjoyment of DCS or anything really is taken away because you're doing that. Because I find myself in the same boat, right? I make videos and stuff, and I find that by the time I'm done making videos, I'm like, well, I don't really want to play anymore.
exactly. So it's there's usually when I finish building missions, I go play something else like Star Citizen or something like that just to have fun.
Right.
Having said, of course, it's still big fun, but yeah, it has this little twist of doing a job in a way.
Sure.
But no,
Yeah, yeah.
that's the one I love.
Yeah, no. So let's talk a little bit about your process because, for me, um, it's like I'm a dreamer, not a schemer when it comes to this stuff. I can think of all these great scenarios and all these different things that, just from my own experience being deployed or, watching movies or anything, you can come up with these great ideas, but then it's like, oh, how do you translate that within the confines of the mission editor? So for you, like, talk a little bit about your process from a single mission standpoint. Like, okay, I'm going to make this scenario. Like where do you start? Like just talk me through your process.
I think it depends on the campaign. It's been a completely different process with Raven One than it's been, for instance, with the Enemy Within. But it's usually, well, the first thing is to choose a jet and choose the settings of the map, and then some good background story, so the overall theme. And I really like to make it as realistic as I can. And well, in the last years, when I look back to the first Enemy Within, oh, has it been crap compared to what I'm doing now? And learned a lot, not only about mission editor, but also about operations, lingo, radios, etc. But coming back to your question, it's after I have this general setting, I'm usually having it's when I start writing, I just write. Well, the first mission usually is something quite easygoing, some introduction to the campaign. I know if for Red Flag would be coming to Nellis, for others would be some familiarization flight, and then, well, it just I don't know, it just the ideas just come and I put them in correct order. But I rarely have a whole plan set up when I start building a campaign. So it's rarely that I have all the missions pre-planned and I know exactly what's going to happen in mission 18 or 20 or no 10. So as I go, I finish one mission. I have a rough idea what I want to do next, but sometimes I change it. Sometimes when I play the mission, I think, oh, it would be nice to do this kind of twist or this kind of scenario next, and then I'm changing, moving things around. So I'm usually focusing on mission after mission and not a big plan. Although having said that, for instance, Raven One was different because with Kevin we came up with the whole plan of all the 15 missions, and in the process we changed them to some extent, but we basically kept to the pre-planned scenario.
Okay.
I don't know, that answers the question, or should I expand on
No,
something?
it does. Particularly when you sit down to start let's say mission two of whatever campaign, do you have it all like written out? Do you just have like a narrative and then you start building it, or do you just kind of go to the mission editor and just start plopping stuff down? How does that?
Yeah, I used to write everything and then build. Now I do the other way around. So I build things, I create some parts of the mission that I want to see. I see how they work with the AI, and then I build everything around them. So I check something from within the mission editor, and then I write the lines for the radios, etc. So they match exactly what's happening in the game.
Right.
Because it's much easier to do it that way than having mission editor do exactly what you want the AI to do, and AI is horrible.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is I think in mission it's doable when you think outside the box. So
Right.
there's lots of things you can do with mission editor even without the scripting if you try to do it in different ways sometimes that it's designed to be done.
Yeah.
And I mean the examples could be for Raven One I did a whole triple A and those explosions flag in the air, and it's been done by things that were probably not designed to do that. So like 100 small zones where I set explosions to different altitudes at
Hmm.
random times, which creates nice effect in the end. It's a lot of work, and probably it's too much too
Right.
much work for the effect. But I liked how it came together.
Yeah.
Or
That.
I know the triple A, which we don't really have for the uh, modern era. So I put two invisible predator drones flying low overhead, 16 radar guided AAAs,
Uh,
and we had these nice tracers coming up. So that kind of thing.
right. Okay. Yeah, because that's a trick, and I want to talk about the AI. But even when I've kind of built just little scenarios, is I'll put something down to have the effect of shooting, and then they won't shoot. So
Yeah,
you've basically worked around that and in some ways forced them to shoot, but also just force the effect. So even if they didn't shoot, you're still getting some explosions and things like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I've seen that a lot of times when AI won't do something, or when you progress with the campaign and there are patches to the game and things change. For instance, one of the Raven One missions is some rocket shooting at night and bog hammers, so small boats. And I remember that the visibility of those boats with NVGs changed 3 times. So at first they were completely invisible. So I thought, okay, I'll have to scrap this mission because it doesn't make sense. Then after the patch, they were super visible. I thought, oh, that's nice, that's really good. Then they stopped shooting at night, so I had to change the time because if it was after 11 p.m. they wouldn't shoot. If it was before 11 p.m. they would, even if it was the same. The darkness was the same. And then now they're barely visible, but they're still visible, so you can play the mission, but it's not as fun as it used to be a few patches back. So those things happen all the time.
Right. That's great. Yeah, I guess they're taking a nap after 11. Huh.
Yeah, it's something like that. It's funny, but it's how it works. So being a third party campaign developer is, I think, like being able to constantly adapt to changing situations and rules where you play the game.
Yeah, so I was talking to Reflective about some of their campaigns, and he was saying, the challenge for him is when those updates come out, is having to basically go back through the campaigns and find all those little mistakes, or the community says, hey, suddenly this doesn't make sense, and I know in one scenario he was talking about the parking pads changed just
Hmm.
just by the update, and which then just threw everything out of whack. Do you find that those types of things happen to yours as well, that you're
Oh yeah,
constantly
oh
having to
yeah,
go back?
it does. Although I have to say that it's I've learned over time to kind of build in some safeguards that help a lot.
Hmm.
So there are some things that tend to break more often than others. Uh, some of the triggers, etc. So I try to use those that are more stable. And B, fortunately, the community is great in this regard because they know DCS for what it is.
Right.
Usually, they play on open beta, so they expect that those kinds of things to happen. They know it's out of our hands, like developers for the campaigns,
Sure.
and they just report those things and they patiently wait until we or ED they fix it. And I have to say that the guys at ED they're very good in reacting to those things and fixing them as soon as they can.
Okay. So how much communication do you have with ED? Like how does the process work as far as I want to build a campaign? If I'm a new guy that wants to put out something that's official, like just talk through that process.
Well, that's well. Then you have to build a few missions with full documentation, fully prepared. Send them to. I think Nine Line is dealing with that right now, and then they will look through it, and they'll tell you, okay, it's good enough or it's not good enough. If it's good enough, they'll tell that you'll probably get a like a contract that you need to deliver this campaign, and then they'll test it, and once it meets all the criteria, they will release it. For me, it's easier because well, I have released a few campaigns, so it's more now like, okay, I want to do this, and say, okay,
Right.
perfect, we sign the contract or agreement, and then it goes. So they're very supportive that way.
Okay. Yeah, so once you've got your foot in the door, so you've got a little bit more, I guess, creative leeway and timing than someone that's brand new.
Yeah, it's different because I mean I've
Sure.
made some kind of brand or mark and it's much easier for me.
Yeah.
But having said that, I see there's I'm working now or in touch with a few guys that are building their own campaigns and they hope to release them. I'm helping them as much as I can. It's also a nice thing that there's no real competition among us. It's more like we're trying to help each other out
Right.
uh, as the campaign developers. So it's a nice thing.
Yeah, because it's a small enough market that you don't need to worry about another company like, well, they're going to do all the campaigns and no one's going to buy mine. Like it's just,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
It also takes too much time to
Yeah.
I mean, for everyone. So you always have a limited number of campaigns, and players will finish them in 10, 20 hours,
Right.
whereas the production process takes 6 to 10 months. So,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You're never gonna run out of people. So for yours, I mean, is it kind of a one-man show? I mean, I know you get some voice acting going on and stuff, but is it just you, or do you have some other guys you outsource portions of it to? Like, how does that work?
no, it's all me.
All
I
you.
mean, I have some guys that help me, for instance, when doing the voiceovers, so
Yeah.
putting on the filters. or when it comes. Well, obviously now with Raven One, with checking the campaign with us, Kevin and Vincent, that
Hmm.
helped a lot. Now we're going to do the same with Rain, where he already provided me for the F-16 campaign that I announced today.
Yeah,
So he already provided with list of 15 missions he'd like to see in based on his own experience from Syria. But when it comes to building, putting things together, preparing documents, all that stuff, it's basically me. But then I have people that help me with checking them, some SMEs that would check whether it all makes sense,
sure.
whether documentation or the radio procedures, etc., etc.
Yeah, I
So it's
saw
mostly
that
me, but
this
yeah.
morning that you announced the new campaign F-16. I love F-16s. I grew up around them, and yeah, I bought that as soon as I could. So I'll definitely be excited to check that one out. But you talked about having SMEs, and uh, I think that's for you at least somewhat evolved. Like when you did your first campaign, which was the Enemy Within, right? The A10.
Hmm.
Yeah, did you have any SME support, or was that just kind of all
Mm.
you?
No, no, it was all me, and then that was a very creative kind of license
Sure.
on my side, and things were completely wrong, as I learned later. And then, yeah, and then I think the breakthrough was when I joined up with the Fighter Pilot podcast, because that opened the door to many people that helped a lot, and basically now each campaign I have a few people that know what they're talking about that help me out or check things that I do,
Right.
which helps me to develop them as realistically as I can.
Right. Yeah, so I wanted to ask you about that. Like, how did you get involved in the Fighter Pilot podcast?
I just wrote to Jello. Uh, I supported it by via Patreon.
Hmm.
Wrote to Jello saying that, well, I didn't really have any expectations. Just said I love the podcast, want to support it,
Mm.
and then at some point, and I said that maybe we could do something, or I could do a campaign that could help, something like that. And then they came back to me saying, "Well, that's a good idea. Let's join forces if you want to become part of the team." So of course I said yes. It was like dream come true. Um, and then that also was the time when Jello and Rob, who's part of the BR Productions, they talked to Kevin Miller about possibility of doing the Raven One like video game out of it or campaign out of it. And yeah, so we joined forces and it worked very well. It was great fun doing the campaign together.
Sure. How do you find that process being different? Taking that first campaign where it was just you full creative license, whether it's right or wrong, normal fans, whatever, they're just having a good time. But now you're working with these guys who are probably not going to let you have as much creative license of things. They're going to say, "Hey, no, actually that's wrong," or "Hey, we need to tweak this." Like, how does that affect your process?
Well, you know what I say about the fighter pilots, that they're very attached to details,
Sure.
and everything has to be really well checked, etc., which is true to some extent. But on the other hand, they understand that it's a game and that
Hmm.
there has to be some middle ground found between realism and fun.
Yeah.
So, and I really appreciate it. I learned a lot about procedures, lingo, and everything.
Hmm.
And so each script that I wrote, because I was writing the scripts and they were just checking them and updating them, giving their remarks, etc. It had about 60, maybe 80 comments and remarks coming from them. So in the end, it worked very well. And of course, I mean, we had good discussions about ideas. These things would work, this wouldn't, and in the end, I think we came up with a really nice set of missions that all of them are entertaining and all of them different and all of them are realistic. So
Yeah.
it's a nice combination.
Yeah, there's a good balance with SMEs. I on my Discord, I'm a helicopter guy, and you're constantly fielded questions, and the ones that are interesting and the ones that most people latch onto are just like you said, the lingo and the procedures, not necessarily the nuts and bolts of the procedures, but like,
Hmm.
hey, when would you do this? When would you say this? Type of things. And those are the ones that are enjoyable to kind of talk about. The ones that are not as enjoyable, because again, I've been playing DCS for years and years and years, so I understand that I don't care what you do. the helicopter is not going to feel 100% like a helicopter. I don't care how
Yeah.
good it is. And so I don't get hung up on, well, the torque is off, or, the heading, the degrees of the pitch aren't exactly right. And so it's
Hmm.
finding that balance of being an SME versus being an SME. So, but yeah. And I think that helps with your, the immersion of your campaigns is when somebody, again, because you can sort of tell, you can feel that, I don't think that guy would say that in this situation, or that just sounds hokey, whereas
Yeah,
an SME is going to catch that and say, no, okay, he would not say that, or it would not sound that way.
yeah, exactly. And but I'm always laughing that if I wanted to do 100% realistic campaign, it would be that boring. It
Oh,
just
it would.
be
Absolutely.
so you just can't sell that. So you have to pick the most interesting parts and then put them together in a campaign. Whether normally they would be spread over a year or something that you do in
Yeah.
few missions, one
Yeah.
after another.
Yeah, we were just talking about that. In fact, working on we have a server set up for my Discord, and we're creating these little scenarios that people can just log on and play. And they wanted this very counterinsurgency type theme. The guy that's working it, and the other pilot and I were talking to him. We're like, look, the reality is, flying in a coin environment is 99% boring. It's that
Mm.
1% that's excitement. So yeah, you've hit the nail on the head that if you wanted 100% real, most people would not enjoy 100% real. It's not as fun as it sounds.
Exactly,
But
exactly. But then you can give them lots of realistic procedures
right,
along the way, plus some fun in the mission.
yeah,
The
absolutely.
whole goal.
Yeah, and even I think Reflective talked about this, like chatter. Sometimes, and you probably do it too. Is you got to put in some conversation in these long flights, where in reality there may not be any conversation. You may be radio silence or something, but you don't want the player flying for 30 minutes and there's just nothing happening. So,
Yeah, exactly. Plus, that's the easiest way to give the context of some additional
yeah,
information without making players read lots of
yeah,
briefing stuff, etc. So, again, this is one of those concessions that we make. But again, for Raven One, there's almost no random chatter, and there's still
mm,
a lot of radio conversations going on. So I think you can find a balance there too.
yeah. Do you get the sense that your customers, your players, that how much of the reading material do they actually look through? Do you get a sense of that?
I think, well, the DCS players are a very special bunch, so I think most of them will read everything or almost everything. There's a few that will just want to jump into action, but most will really try to get immersed and really check everything and try to see if because a lot of information is pretty relevant.
Right.
So they even do read the guides or the README files that are attached to the campaign, which is good. So I'd
Yeah.
say yeah, most of them read them.
Do you put stuff in there that's not relevant? Like almost on purpose. Have you ever done that, or is it everything that's in there is like 100% you're going to need all this stuff?
I put some of things again. Raven one when you have daily code words. I would put code words for things that you will not see in the mission, just
Okay.
to make it more realistic.
Sure. Yeah.
So you'll see out of 12, you'll 3 or 4 will be used in that mission. But if you only use those 3 or 4, then there would be no surprises because you
Yeah.
would know what to
Yeah.
expect.
And that's what I was getting at. Like I like to do that too, where I'll put in like not a bunch, but a few frequencies, and then exactly it's like they can't just go ahead and plug it in and say, well, I'm just waiting for this to happen. So, no, that's interesting.
Exactly, and so the other thing is, for instance, I put the 8 tasking orders uh,
Hmm.
in there, which you don't have to use, and most of it will not be relevant. But sometimes when you want to see, okay, so what that flight is carrying, or what altitude are they on, what frequency, you can all find all that information in the ATO. But it's not necessary, and it's not. Most
Yeah.
of it is probably redundant, but
Yeah.
I think it adds to the immersion.
Yeah, and if it was a real ATO, I mean, it'd be 100 pages, or more that
Yeah,
people have
yeah,
to sort through.
exactly.
Yeah, definitely don't want that level of realism. Um, so another thing that I guess you're working on or have been working on is you work with Razbam for manual development. Is that right?
Yeah, I did the manual for the Mirage, and now I'm going through the manual for the Harrier,
Okay.
which is a lot of work because it's pretty complicated aircraft.
Yeah, yeah, it is. So how did that come about? Like, do you have a background in in technical manuals? Like what suddenly just caused you to be the manual guy?
Nope, I don't have any. I think it was we were talking about Mirage because the first manual was also like a pocket guide, and since I did all the training missions, I just thought, look, guys, I'm happy to try and put together a more complex manual because I have lots of that stuff covered already in the training, so it should be easy.
Okay.
It wasn't as easy as I thought, but it came out pretty well, I guess. People liked it. And then the same for the Harrier. I did very comprehensive training missions, so again, I have most of the stuff covered. And I like doing those things. I really enjoy writing manuals and
Okay.
playing with how it all looks and with graphics, etc. So it's good fun.
Okay. So that spurred then from you building the training manual. You had an intimate knowledge of how to do things. And you said, "Well, I could just turn this into the manual." Did they reach
Yeah.
out to you to build those training manuals or the videos? Or, I'm sorry, the missions, the training
Missions.
missions?
Well, I now have a standing kind of cooperation, like permanent cooperation with Raspberry on their modules.
Okay.
So it's part of our kind of agreement that I do training missions for their aircraft. I will do for each. I'll try to do at least a short free campaign. So I'm now finishing the one for the Harrier, 5 missions in Caucasus. And for the manuals, we'll see. But after the Harrier, how long it takes. But it's all part of the cooperation. So I'm kind of still doing my stuff, but also joining forces with them because I really like the aircraft they're doing. I mean, the next project will probably be when the Falklands are out. I'll want to do a big campaign over there recreating the conflict.
Yeah, I was just talking to somebody the other day how I think that would be a very interesting scenario for DCS. I think.
Yeah, so I think so. I'm talking already to people that were there, and they some of them flew, some of them were just in the conflict from the British side, and I'm thinking how to deal with that, but that's probably for next year or even later.
Sure. Now, are you are you like an avid history buff? Do you like military history? Is it particular aviation history? Like what's got you interested in this?
I remember. I mean, it's funny because I had a very long break from Sims. I remember playing The Sims on Amiga, Commodore 64, long time ago. I remember when I was a kid, I had this book with all the U.S. jets, like technical specifications. I was just reading through it, looking through it. I knew
Yeah.
it by heart.
Yeah.
I was making the models of the aircraft,
Hmm.
but then I had a long break, and I just my wife got me a joystick for Christmas, I think, and I said, okay, so I need to play something. So I found the A10, and yeah, that's how it started again. So yeah, but I do like history. I do like especially military history, aviation. I read or listen to lots of books, memoirs, etc. So yeah.
Okay. So, of all the modules, what is your favorite to fly and what is your favorite to try to build missions for?
Well, I've always loved A10.
Hmm.
I really like the Harrier, but my favorite, I mean, two favorite jets were always F-16 and the F-15E.
Hmm.
So I'm looking forward to the one from Razvam, and I'm looking forward to the campaign for the Viper.
Yeah.
But I also love the helicopters, although I never had time to really properly learn any of them. But I really like Kiowa because there was this old, I mean, Longbow Apache, I think was called.
Oh yeah.
This, yeah,
Janes.
so exactly. And I just kind of really liked it. And so I would love to do a campaign for Kiowa. And I was actually going to ask you if you would be interested in cooperating, like an SME, so like a Raven 1 or the S16 I'm building now on
Yeah.
such a project.
Yeah, I would love to. That would be great.
So when it's out, let's get back to the idea because I'd really like to do my first helicopter campaign, and I'd love it to be the Kiowa,
Yeah.
and we could then work together on it,
Yeah,
just
no,
like I
that'd be
work with
fantastic.
Rain. Perfect.
Yeah, I can totally get some other guys to help out and yeah, that would be great. I'm
Let's
really
do it.
surprised by the positive energy surrounding the Kiowa release. Like I really didn't expect so much buzz about it, so I'm happy to see that.
There's something about this helicopter. I don't know what, but it's. I know if you listen to the Fighter Pilot podcast episode about it,
Yeah. Yeah, I did.
uh, and you just can, it's amazing. Like the part about not having the doors
Yeah.
and the whole discussion around it was like, what?
Yeah.
But it's just great. So I think the capabilities and also it will fit well with DCS. Uh,
Yeah.
we
Yeah,
we have helicopters.
we desperately need a helicopter that can laze for, for jets
Exactly.
to drop bombs and stuff. That would be great.
So it will be, yeah.
Yeah. So if you could pick a time period that you wish DCS could focus on, or a particular airframe that doesn't exist, what do you think that would be?
Vietnam.
Okay.
I would love to have the map and some more airframes from that time because I've read lots of books and it's just so many amazing missions that you could have both for fixed wing and rotary wing.
Yeah.
Rotaries, it's just perfect.
No, I agree with that. I was talking to somebody the other day and I said, the problem right now is people want this high tech stuff. Like, every day I feel like I hear somebody say, "Oh, I want an F-35 in DCS." And I'm like, "Why? Why do you want to make this boring?" Because the F-30, it's a very capable aircraft, but it can make a bad pilot good because it's so capable. That
Yeah.
Vietnam, Korea time frame, and even, the early 80s, technology was good, but you still had to be good at what you did, and there was a balancing act. And I agree with you. I think the Vietnam time frame, you talk about, F4s and thuds, and just there's some great iconic aircraft, and like you said, some great iconic situations and battles. I think that would be fantastic.
Yeah, I think it will come at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely. I mean, well, the F-35, F-22, well, we maybe will see it in DCS in 15, 20 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something
Yeah.
like
When they're old. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. But it's true that would be. I read somewhere that the F-35, the pilots, they kind of complain when they go, I don't know, to Red Flag or some other training that to make it interesting for them, they would need like at least 10-to-1 ratio of these older fourth generation jets against them
Right.
to make it,
Eh,
to feel that they're kind of threatened.
Yeah.
So yeah, it would get boring probably
Which is
quickly.
incredible to think about. Just it's unbelievable. But yeah, I've heard similar things as well. So yeah, I just think that would be boring. I want to see some Phantoms. I grew up probably had the same book as you. I was looking at all the
Yeah.
pictures, had them memorized, and the F4 was always this one bird that I really wanted to fly. But yeah, that'd be great.
Well, that one we'll get probably. I mean, at least it was in development. I think they didn't cancel it; they just suspended it, but it should come at some point. We
And
only
like
need
you, I'm
one.
looking forward to the F-15E, another
Yeah,
one.
it's gonna be awesome.
Well, so I mean, on top of writing manuals, building campaigns, building training scenarios, working with the Fire to Pilot podcast, what else do you do? Do you have any other side hustles going on?
Let me think. No, I think that's all.
That's enough.
That's enough. No, it's really enough. That's on top of my daily job, which is pretty demanding, and family, and yeah, lots of other things. So it's I think it's enough.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I'm sure your wife doesn't
And
give
if
you any
we
hard time about it.
no, she's really cool about it.
That's good.
Plus, I do a lot in the evenings, so I don't need that much sleep.
Right.
Uh, so I mean, 5 hours is still okay for me.
Yeah, yeah.
Otherwise, it wouldn't be possible.
Well, cool, man. Well, I appreciate you taking the time and talking, and yeah, I would absolutely look forward to working with you in the future on some things.
Well, my pleasure. Yeah, let's do it when the KO is out and when I'm more or less free. I mean, I usually do 2 or 3 campaigns at the same time anyway,
Sure.
so I'm used to that, and it helps me when I'm kind of bored or tired with one. I just move to another one, and it keeps me going. So, and I really love to do one for a helicopter. So if we could do it together, I would be super happy.
Yeah, no, it sounds great. Well, it'll be released in 2 weeks. You know the joke, so you
Of
better get
course, yeah.
ready. So. Oh, all right, man.
Okay.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time.
No, my pleasure, really.
All right, we'll
Let's,
talk to you again soon.
yeah, let's be in touch and then yeah, when it's out, let's think what we can do, one map and how to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
Can't wait.
it will be great. Yeah.
All right, man. Have a good night.
You too. Take care. Thanks.